The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining Turning a Moment into a Movement. I am J Love, and I also represent the Justice for Gerard movement. Gerard is my son who was wrongfully convicted of a crime he didn't do. Innocent, and he went to prison for 2 years. So through that journey with Gerard, I met other parents, other mothers, and family members who also had loved ones incarcerated. And so through that, birthed this movement, Turning a Moment into a Movement, where we come on every Friday at 6 p.m. and talk about wrongful convictions and injustice and all things, actually all things injustice. But also we talk about, taking responsibility and accountability for ourselves and for our community. So thank you for joining us today. We have an awesome show that we're going to offer you today, talking about another wrongful conviction story. I'm waiting for them to join us soon, but while we're waiting on them to join us, I'm going to bring in our panel. Hi, Attorney Hugo Mack.
Hello, my leader. How are you?
Oh, I'm excellent. How about yourself?
Hey, praising God and happy Thanksgiving to you and Gerard and all the fighters for justice that, God has blessed us to see another Thanksgiving Day. And although it's not Thanksgiving for the Native Americans, the people who had their land stolen and taken from them, and it certainly is not a Thanksgiving for Black folks in the history of slavery and systemic racism, I say it's a day of Thanksgiving for God having us here to fight the good fight and stand for justice. Amen.
Amen. So, Attorney Hugo Mack, let's talk while we're waiting a little bit about the verdict that came in this week.
Well, it was a great verdict, but I'm cautious that people should not make more of it than what it actually was.
Okay.
And to look at how the system came very, very, very near to failing. As you know, there were two prosecutors who had essentially recused themselves from this case. Not that they shouldn't have, but when it went to one of the states, one of the adjoining counties, I believe, that prosecutor wasn't going to bring any charges at all. Okay. And so none of the prosecutors, even the one that got in trouble, it's very rare for a prosecutor to face criminal charges for his or her conduct because of immunity. But this woman's conduct, as you know, J Love, was so egregious, they brought criminal charges against her. Thank God. You see what I'm saying? Because the way the prosecutors were looking at this all the way around the horn was that these people had done nothing wrong. There's that antiquated antebellum citizens arrest statute in Georgia, which was designed, by the way, to allow white folk to hunt Black folk now, you see, and arrest them without being police, that these folks were in fact relying on. And just like with that Trayvon Martin situation, that antiquated self-defense argument, well, that might have worked with Rittenhouse under those unique circumstances with him, but fortunately it did not work with these folks. And I want to say another thing. I respect the prosecutor's decision not to make race an issue because she was speaking to a predominantly all-white jury with only one Black person on there. But seeing as how the opposition, one of the most racist statements I ever heard was when that woman talked about Ahmaud Arbery. Look at him with those dirty toes, those dirty toenails, wearing them sandals. What she meant to say is them dirty Black toes. That's what she meant to say, and that's what she tried to do. a clear racial message to the jury. And what she was hoping is, with the shenanigans about, well, we can't have these black preachers in here. Now, notice, one of the defense attorneys, they didn't say no more preachers in the courtroom, J Love. They said, we're not having no more black preachers.
Right.
We're not having no more black preachers. I said, oh my God. Oh my God. So the telegraphing to the jury was open and notorious, J Love. Open and notorious. Trying to make a big issue about Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. People may or may not even have noticed who them people were until you draw attention to them,
Right.
and stuff. So it anyway, J Love, I'll be talking for another hour about that verdict, but I'm gonna cut it short because you only asked me that. So it almost didn't happen, J Love. And by the way, it would not have happened if that video did not exist.
Right.
And the God did that, because any other, if I was defending those men, I'm sorry, that video never would have surfaced. It never would have surfaced. But I mean, thank God it did surface, and that's was the basis for it. But without that video, I think it might have been a totally other outcome, J Love.
Right. So you're right. The video, and Attorney Hugo Matt, before I go to anyone else, I just need to say that video, it was a game changer, and they thought it was going to help them.
Right.
So
Right.
Let's bring in Reverend Tia. Hi, Reverend Tia.
Well, hello there. Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to be here this evening. I hope it's not too much noise in the background. This is our family night tonight.
Okay. Hey,
and
Hey, hello.
Yeah, so you may hear some dancing and things going on, some little shenanigans. Not a lot of us, but hey, every time we get together, there's going to be music.
Right.
But I needed to be here tonight, and I think that it was important for us to get together. Being on the front line to help, helping a lot of different organizations right now, with the Social Justice Network of Michigan and Flint, Michigan, and they're having a crisis right now, even with the COVID numbers going up in schools, up to 300 in some schools, and some of the schools did not close. I don't know if they closed them yet, but they probably did for the holiday, but I mean, even before the holiday. So it's important for us to come together on these issues, just like Attorney Mack said. We got to be aware and have our blinders off to what the real deal is. And what I found it really astounding is the consciousness that is pervasive, and that people can see. And it was a time for them to actually see what that consciousness is and who's behind it, the face of the people behind that mindset. And for a lot of people, it was ugly. And I believe we made some strides because a lot of people didn't realize that it was ugly. Like Attorney Mack said, it was ugly. But some people didn't know that it was ugly, and they felt that they were in, it was just the regular everyday issue, And it was the issue of not counting people, not thinking citizens were actual citizens. And, just judging a person, saying their feet are dirty and all this other stuff that had nothing to do to what actually happened. So I'm so glad we're here this evening, because we can't be silent anymore. We have to keep talking about it. People have to see the ugliness of it. They have to know that it's insane to treat people different because of the color of their skin.
Exactly. Thank you, Reverend Tia. So, Allie, introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Alexandria. I'm an activist in the metro area. Also work in the mental health industry. And honestly, just been reflecting on everything that's been happening these past few weeks. The news has been, putting a lot of things on my heart. And, just trying to get through.
Yes, I know that's right, Allie. So before we get started, I want to ask everyone to please share this stream. And I want to say hi to everyone that's on YouTube and Twitter. Hello. And whoever might watch this later on. Greetings. We're going to talk about Cornelius Patterson. And I'm going to bring on, I heard a story from Lisa Riley, and I'm going to bring her on. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
Yes, you made it.
Jesus. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, myself, computers, technology, and I didn't even get the laptop to work. I jumped on the phone, so I apologize. I'm so sorry.
No, it's good. So I'm just glad you're here because Mr. Patterson is going to be calling in soon.
He is. Yes, he's very excited, and he's so full of gratitude. You know, he just thanks you all for allowing him to come on.
So tell us about his story, and then we'll hear more from him. But tell us about Cornelius.
Okay, well, he is in an Ohio prison. It's called Marion Prison in Ohio. I met him because doing some work for Miss Connie Mayhew. She's a private investigator through HSH Investigations. And when I first heard his story, I couldn't believe it. He has never been incarcerated before, has never been to jail. He was a college student, a full-time dad. He had a living girlfriend at the time where there was an incident where the living girlfriend shot and killed the neighbor. Her DNA is on the gun. They know it. They have that paperwork. They chose to ignore it. They charged him and they took his life. So he has appealed, and appeals after appeals been denied. And here we are now today with Miss Connie Mayhew, you know, investigating his case. But I felt in my heart that this had to come out, that we had to somehow make the people aware, you know, that this is wrong. It is extremely wrong. Why is it that the state of Ohio has the evidence that shows that Cornelius Patterson is innocent, but they choose not to use it? They chose just to turn their head, and they took his life. Now he's been incarcerated for 12 years. So this was 12 years ago, and the girlfriend at the time, she was charged as well, but she was charged with tampering with the gun because the gun was hers, and she got 4 years that she went into the women's prison in Ohio and done, but they took his life. And it's just it's so crazy. I can't wait for you to talk to him. You know, a lot of it doesn't make any sense. They said that he was holding a gun and kicking in an apartment door where the male was standing on the other side of the door, and he shot through the door. There was no bullet hole in the door. They took the door off, and they took it to court, and there's pictures of the door. But here's the problem, is that there were previous older bullet holes that had been fixed and filled. And they focused in on that, saying, oh, it must have been this hole that was fixed, which made no sense. How did it get fixed from the time that you took it off of the apartment and brought it into the courtroom? Made no sense. And the fact that Mr. Patterson is left-handed, there was a ballistics expert that stated a right-handed person done this. So there's so much proof to this, and Miss Mayhew, which is on here, she can clear up the more technical. I'm not a paralegal. I don't have a strong legal background. I'm an advocate, and I believe strongly that what is going on in our states, each state, because I'm in Ohio, but every state is having this where it's so easy to take a person of color's life and just turn your head when it comes to the other person standing beside them happens to be Caucasian. And I'm angry about it, and I need people to know that he is innocent, and they took his life. And we're just trying to figure it out.
Right. Welcome, Connie.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us. So you're
Yes.
the private investigator on this case?
Yes, he had reached out to me. I specialize in post-conviction investigations. So he had reached out to me, and this was actually, right around the same time that Lisa was speaking with them, and we were just kind of getting all the documents and preparing to look over everything. But I give a ton of credit to Cornelius, because he himself has educated himself and been in the law library, and has actually been key in finding some of the information that has been brought to light recently, not only with the evidence, but some of the legal issues. For example, him being charged out of two different courts. There was no bind over to the grand jury. It was basically one court filed the charges, and at the same time another court convened a grand jury, handed down the indictment, and for 3 or 4 days after that all happened, he was charged in two different courts. The one ended up nulling the charges, but they never rearrested him on the new case. And he'll probably go into that in a little bit more detail. And then, just a lot of due process. There was warrants that weren't obtained in order to get some of the evidence and information that they had and they used against him. His attorney that he had at the beginning met with the detective and the prosecutor, and basically came out and say, well, he admitted to it, but he said it was self-defense, and he's the one that prompted them to look at the situation with the door, because his attorney told them that he had shot through the door. Cornelius wasn't there during this meeting. He never indicated any of this information to his attorney. So it really it was like, what is going on here? Minors, their kids were interviewed by the detectives without consent and without a parent being, in the interrogation room with them. It's a lot of information. His girlfriend's at the time daughter has since come forth and stated that her mother has confessed to being the one that actually did the shooting. But yeah, so there's a lot more details that haven't even been put out there on Lisa's lives yet, that when we talked to Cornelius today, we suggested that this might be a good time to, because he was just as much of a witness to all of this as everybody that testified against him. So, but nobody's really ever heard his testimony.
Wow.
So I hope he does that, because it's it all makes sense once he tells the story from how everything happened and went down. So,
Attorney Hugo Mack. Have you ever heard of some of this stuff that they're describing that?
Yeah, far too often. Far too often. I'm curious, what was the makeup of the jury?
That's a good question, because we haven't really looked into that yet. We haven't gotten to the jury, and I haven't asked Cornelius anything about the jury. So that would be a question for him.
Okay.
And if you don't mind me saying this, there is a YouTube video. If you put his name in YouTube, and it's of his sentencing, and it's he has two attorneys. He's sitting in the middle, and I've watched this YouTube video, I bet you 100 times. And the guy on the left is clearly looking down and smiling, almost like a smirk. And so I encourage any of you that are curious to go to YouTube and type in his name and watch the sentences. Now, I will say this, I could be wrong, but in my mind, this man is smirking as the judge is giving him a life sentence.
So Gene Patterson put up here all white when you asked the jury about the jury. I think that's one of his relatives.
That's his brother, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So gentleman's name is Cornelius Patterson?
Yes.
Junior. Yes, Cornelius Patterson Jr.
What county was that in Ohio?
It was in Findlay County. That's where the initial charges were filed, was Findlay County Municipal Court. And then Hancock County District Court is the one that actually convened the grand jury and the indictment came out of.
Okay, because, I went to law school in Ohio, but it's been such a long time since I've been there. The equivalent of a circuit court in Ohio, isn't that common pleas court in Ohio?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so if it's a felony, he'd have been charged in the trial would have been in common pleas court, not a district court.
Well, sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. So we don't know what the makeup of the jury was. And any major urban cities in what's Findlay County there?
Lisa?
That one I'm not real sure of. But I don't think so. I know his brother is watching, Gene Patterson, and he's going to call like 2 minutes and he could really tell you. But I don't believe so. Now, he was the only person of color in this situation.
Okay.
Everyone else was white.
Okay.
Down
and
to
so, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say down to the policeman that arrested him. And they went by, and I have to throw this out. Originally, when there's two women, one, the girlfriend of the deceased, she made the phone call, the 911 phone call. And originally, she had made the first 911 call saying that he was drunk and she wanted him out of there. She wanted this guy gone. They were fighting and they were all intoxicated. And when after he had gotten shot, it was Cornelius Patterson that was screaming at her to call 911, call an ambulance, get him help. He was trying to help him. And that girlfriend made the statement that he's not dead, shoot him again. But when the police get there, she wasn't even questioned.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's pretty powerful. It's a powerful case, and it breaks my heart, because I just think that something has to be done, because there, as you know, being an attorney, there's thousands of Cornelius Patterson Juniors.
That's right.
Yeah,
right.
and it's happening all the time.
Yes. I mean, we just saw some, I can't think of their names, but there were 4 gentlemen who was exonerated a few days ago of a rape that happened probably about 50 years ago. And it was a Caucasian lady in that one who made the statement that they raped her. And in the 50s, when this happened, the people who lived in this town, they were terrorized by the police. One of the 4 young men were killed by the crowd. I mean, so when you say this, in this situation where Mr. Patterson's in, he's the only Black person in this whole scenario. Is, I mean, from history is going to go downhill.
He's actually calling right now.
Oh, awesome.
This call is recording. Thank you for using GTL.
Oh, go ahead. You're on.
Well, hello to everyone. How is everyone doing? Thank you for taking time, a day of Thanksgiving, to actually give time and place time within me. I am appreciative. How are you?
Hi, Cornelius.
How are you?
Thank you.
Bless.
So,
Thank you.
tell us about your story.
My story is a burden that I've been carrying for roughly 12 years now. I'm currently incarcerated for aggravated murder on a case that I have DNA evidence proving that not even a man committed. I have DNA evidence proving that a female committed this crime, and the state knows about it, and the state knows the DNA belongs to, and the state refuses to compare the DNA to the actual weapon to actually determine that it belongs to this person. They've been aware of this since my trial, and this was some of the information.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
And that's just the very beginning of my case. Within my case, I also have proof that I had an all-white jury. Not just an all-white jury, I had an all-white jury pool. I had an all-white jury pool that actually saw me in handcuffs and shackles. So before they even had a determination to figure out who I was, that was their first introduction to me. And to take it a step further, or should I say, to take a step backwards, within my case, the case that I'm currently incarcerated for, I was never arrested for. The case in which I was arrested for was actually flawed. And if you look at my booking reports, my indictment, and my actual municipal court docket, it all proves exactly what I'm saying. I was actually arrested for case number 09CRA01220 out of the Philly Municipal Court, Hancock County, Ohio. And this is the case that they actually went about doing things semi-correctly. But at the time that they arrested me, the grand jury also took jurisdiction while the Philly Municipal Court still had jurisdiction, and they came back with an indictment and an arrest warrant for October 27th, 2009, while Philly Municipal Court still had jurisdiction of my case. And then what they did was they tried to cover it up. So 2 days later, after both court courts had jurisdiction for 2 days. Same subject, same matter, two different jurisdictions. They turned around and they gnawed the case out of Philly Municipal Court, and Hancock County jury continued with the case that I'm currently arrested on, what I'm currently incarcerated on. And if we take a good look at this case, I never received a preliminary hearing. My preliminary hearing was actually waived without my permission by an attorney, and it was done without my knowledge. Not only that, I never received a bind over hearing. So which means Hancock County grand jury never even had the right to even see my case, let alone contact with an indictment. But while they did that, once they gnawed my case to the Philly Municipal Court, they never released me from jail. They held me in jail and never released me. If you look at my booking reports only show one arrest, and that happened October 19, 2009. That further proves that the case that I'm currently incarcerated on, I was never arrested for.
Wow. Attorney Hugo Matt, is that?
Yeah.
Well, okay, but okay. First of all, when you're saying you didn't have a preliminary examination and that was waived without your permission, sometime along the
This
appellate
call is
process,
originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
sometime along that way, you had to have raised that in an appellate process. What happened?
That was never raised. The appellate attorney that I had never raised that issue. I don't know. At the time when all of this was taking place, I was completely ignorant of what was taking place. I was just under the impression that the law works, accordingly. And I thought that the attorneys were going to do their job correctly. So therefore, at the moment, I didn't understand what was taking place. It took me years to actually catch up what happened to me. It took me years to actually figure out what took place. And by the time I figured out what took place, they had already told me they've been barring me by the doctor in the French to encounter with Ohio. So therefore, what I had to do was I had to find an issue that I had within my case, which was actually illegal, and then attack that on a collateral attack. So I did so. In 2020, 2019, I actually got resentenced because they intentionally added PRC to a life sentence. And in the state of Ohio, that's a legal sanction. You're not allowed to have them both. So I argued that, and then they resentenced me without counsel on top of that. And then they continued on. They turned around and took the PRC office indefinitely, and then applied it to a sentence in which I've already completed. So once they did that, I turned around and I appealed State versus Patterson 2020, and I won that appeal. After I won the appeal, I turned around and I was waiting for the lower court to actually follow the mandate from the higher court. They didn't. When they didn't follow the mandate from the lower court, they turned around and told me I had to reappeal. And at this time, the prosecutor within my case happens to be the lieutenant judge, the district in which I appeal to it now. Then they turned around and they actually denied the appeal in which they approved a year earlier. And now I'm in the process of writing a federal case to actually argue those issues, so therefore I can go back and be able to re-raise these issues. When they did argue this, the attorney that I had that was supposed to have raised the issues about, one, me being incarcerated for a case I was never arrested for, never mentioned the fact I never had a final decision, never mentioned the fact I never had a preliminary hearing. These attorneys never argued it, never raised it, never mentioned it. So when I wrote a letter to the Ohio Public Defender's Office, I asked them, what do I have to actually argue my case with? And they sent me a letter back saying that they did their job adequately, which was not true. The attorneys just never argued it. They never turned up. They never mentioned it. Long story short, I was railroaded.
Wow.
And all of these they're not just allegations. I can point you in the direction to see every single thing in which I mentioned is in black and white. I learned about the DNA through a state expert witness. Julie Johnson had to testify and said that the they pull for the trigger of the firearm is solely with the female. That means no one else. And they knew this from the very beginning. And then the state expert list of toolbox gave testimony that the evidence showcases match, the evidence bullets match the actual weapon in which they have. The evidence showcase and the evidence bullets does not match. I'm sorry, let me start over. The test fire showcase, the test fire bullets, they match the firearm in which the state has. But the test fire showcases and the test fire bullet does not match the evidence bullet, the evidence showcases.
Cornelius, did they ever do a gun, a firearms residue test on your hands or your clothes?
No, they did not, and I requested for it. They told me of their own mouth that would not be necessary. Never did that.
Did you ever place that in an appeal?
Excuse me?
Did you ever place that in an appeal?
No. No, that was never mentioned in the appeal. All of the evidence in which I have, which was favorable for myself, the attorneys in which I've had throughout my incarceration, never mentioned none of these things in which I've just mentioned to you. These are some of the things in which
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
discovered on my own outside of the DNA and outside of the ballistics. I discovered most of these things on my own within the past couple of years. It was just through my own diligence, refusing to give up, I started finding these things. And now I'm actually that the of course are refusing to release certain records. Like, I get to ask for certain things and they just do not give them to me. Even if there are supposed to be given through the Public Records Request Act, they're refusing. The attorney who's supposed to have this information presented in my case, he constantly says he has nothing. Like PCI are refusing to relinquish any form of evidence that they have. I want them to be able to see their actual notes. They're not letting them go. They're not releasing them. If they give you anything, they'll probably give you something with a time-sensitive subject, and you get to view it for a couple of days, and then that email deletes. It's that.
All right.
Dion said that the Attorney General needs to look at this case. Is that a possible ability, Connie?
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know, the Attorney General is who is that, Lisa? Is it DeWine? No, he's the governor.
No, Mike DeWine is the governor.
Is the
Dave
governor.
Yes.
Yost is the actual Attorney General.
Yeah, Dave Yost.
Yeah. Well, and I think, with everything that is coming together, there's going to be a lot of different, I think, options that he's going to have. It's just, it's putting everything together and we just keep adding more and more. But I didn't know, Cornelius, I had kind of mentioned a little bit about some of the other details and the fact that you've never really gotten to because you didn't testify.
No.
And so nobody's ever really heard. You were actually probably more of a witness to what happened than a suspect, or even, guilty or so. I didn't know if that was something you would feel comfortable sharing.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Johnny,
with
I don't have
everybody. Well, and that's what I'm saying. I think if you were to share some of the, how everything went down, it all of this evidence would make sense to everybody.
Okay. This is what happened. Because I never said that I wasn't there. I know what happened. I'm the person who told him to call 911. I'm the person who checked him to make sure he was okay. Well, all this happened, I was asleep when this happened. As I'm getting woke up, it sounds like someone's breaking into my house. I look up, I see that my gun's gone, no one's in the house. So as I'm looking up, it's one way in, one way out. I open the door as I'm like, I only got one way to get out. So I open the door, I burnt out, I try to run out. I look out, I see my ex, I see her children, I see his prison. They're all running toward me trying to get in where I'm at. And then I hear someone else talking about, I'm going to kill you fucking bitches, and if you get that nigga, I'm going to kill him too. I know who it is. As soon as I hear that, I see my ex's youngest child coming down the steps. As she's coming down the steps, I hear him coming toward her. So what I do is I meet him on the steps. We have an altercation, there's a tussle for the baseball bat. As we're tussling for the baseball bat, we're struggling going back and forth for the baseball bat. And before you know it, my ex upped the pistol on me. He upped the pistol on it, and you know he stopped struggling. No more argument. So as I got him, I'm walking him back to his house. I walk him back to his house. As I walk him back to his house, I tell him, put the bag down, dummy, before this be a bad day for you. You put the bag down, the back door behind the door. The door opens, and the door opens into the apartment. When you look into the apartment, it's like a little foyer here, like a little small window, small tower. The rest of the apartment is carpet. The baseball bat falls behind the door. As he gets into the apartment, I let him go. I know how to look. I'm not saying. Like we just walked this white man back into his apartment by gunpoint. So I'm looking around and looking to see who saw something that was going on. As I'm looking around, I look over the room, I hear the door slam, I hear the gun go off, and I see her looking at me like a deer in the headlights. So I look at her, I'm like, what the fuck? She's like, accident. So as I'm looking, I'm trying to figure out what's going on now. As I'm looking and trying to figure out what's going on, I hear him on the other side talking about, you stop me, you stop me. So as this is taking place, I'm thinking about what to do. So I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to leave him here. I'm going to go see if he's okay. And I'm not going to lie, this is the worst decision I made in my life. Because till this day, I wish I never kicked that door in. I wish I never kicked that door in to check him to see if he's right. Because had I not killed that, gave me those additional charges. But I kept taking back out. I put the door open. I checked him to see if he was shot. The actual state never tested his clothing. Had they tested his clothing, they'd have seen my DNA was all over his clothing, all over his skin. Because I checked him to see was he shot. I checked him to see was he hurt. I checked him to see if there was blood. I saw nothing. I checked him all the way to his skin over his shirt. I checked him all the way to his skin under his boxes to make sure he wasn't shot. I see nothing. And as I see nothing, I see his wife come up, and she looking at me, and I'm like, call 911. And she's like, no, shoot him again. So I look at her, and I'm like, bitch, call 911. She just looking at me like she don't know what to do, and I keep telling her to call 911, and then eventually she calls.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
As she calling 911, I tell my ex to go get the kids, we about to go. We go get the kids come and we leave. And then we end up leaving. I end up getting on the phone. I tell her, call her and make sure she calls 911. The police report support everything I'm telling you right now. Look at the police report. The phone call back and forth. I had her call her 2 or 3 times to make sure not only was it all right, but to make sure he got into the hospital. As that's taking place, I hear her talking about, yeah, the police is here, your boyfriend's in trouble. So I'm looking at her like, what? So when she hangs the phone, I tell her, you know what, I didn't worry about it. I'm about to go up, I'm about to get my son, I'm about to take my house. And before you know it, I get into Toledo, and I keep having her call even when we get to Toledo. Like, I knew he died before anybody else even said it on TV, because I had her keep calling to see if he okay. And they turned around and made that story into something completely different. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to even sit and complain about it because I'm going to go and take it to trial because I know that evidence is going to support everything that took place. That ain't how it works. That ain't.
So, Connie. So, where are we at in this? What's going on now, Connie?
Well, so once he shared that information with me, I attempted to get a hold of his ex-girlfriend's daughter, because there had been some conversations with her and Cornelius about, you know, now these years later, as her daughter's older, about some information that her mother shared with her. And it basically was the same information that Cornelius just shared. So she did speak with me, and she did tell me, you know, her account of that night, and it was very similar to what, you know, Cornelius just explained. She did talk about how her mom confessed to her, and how, but she was scared. She couldn't say anything because she was scared to go back to jail. So she had actually agreed at the time to write an affidavit. And since then, I was also in touch with the ex-girlfriend, trying to see if she would be willing to provide any information. She did reach back out. She was hesitant, so I figured we're probably not going to get too far with her. And then I don't know if somewhere in between, the daughter changed her mind about writing the affidavit. Although I do have, you know, my report in regards to the interview that I had with her and the questions and statements that were asked and made. And then, you know, just like I said, Cornelius has done his due diligence and learned so much of the law and has been working on his case. I think just putting everything together, and seeing what we can do to move forward. Now, I think a lot of the reason why we decided to get this story out there is because sometimes, you know, when you're doing this along with whatever we're going to file in court or whatever he's going to file in court, sometimes it can, you know, have an impact.
Right.
So getting the story out there and maybe hopefully the ex-girlfriend will hear this or see this and decide, okay, yeah, it's time for me to do the right thing, you know, because maybe at the time she didn't realize it was going to be to the extent that it ended up being for Cornelius, you know.
Right.
So
I'm sorry, Connie. Lisa.
Yes.
How much longer does Cornelius have to speak with us?
I have a life here.
Oh, well, no.
I will do this all night.
Yeah, he says he can call right back. He can hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. All right.
Yeah, I can do this all night.
Oh, okay. I didn't want you to get hung up on. So go ahead, Connie. You can go ahead. Finish.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility.
No, I think that's,
and maybe,
you know, one of the things that we, like Cornelius said, he's had trouble getting some of his documents because they won't release it to him. We're finding that we're running into that same type of situation. Lisa the other day had actually called the courthouse because we're trying to get his trial transcripts. And the clerk, she didn't even have to give him a case number. She just gave him his name and she knew what we were talking about and said, "Oh, we destroyed all of his records. We gave his dad everything that we had, and then we destroyed all the documents. We gave him like $7,000 worth of documents or something like that." And that didn't make sense to me because typically I didn't think that the courts destroyed records. They may archive them, they may put them on microfiche, whatever they do, but the court reporters are typically going to have that information, and if not, the courthouse somewhere is going to have that information.
His brother's saying that he has it on a hard drive.
He does,
yeah.
Right, and I'm sure if he does, that would be great to get those, because I haven't been able to go through those at all. But still the fact that the courthouse is saying that they're destroyed seems funny to me. And then I don't know, what else do you think? Can you think of anything else, Patterson?
Oh, as far as destroying the records, my question becomes this: where are they using to support the record? If they have all the actual evidence that they had, they destroyed it. Not only that, like when it comes down to certain things that took place during my trial, it just didn't make any sense. Like, my attorneys failed to represent me completely. Like, they never even mentioned the fact that the state said that the shooter was a right-handed person. And it's clear and stated, I'm left-handed. Anyone who knows me knows I'm left-handed. Even the old deputy within the county jail, which I was housed, actually proved the fact that I was left-handed. She said and told me before I left, she said, "I know you're innocent." I said, "Nancy, why you say that?" She said, "Because you're like my brothers. You're a lefty." And they said that the shooter was right-handed.
Wow.
My attorneys never mentioned that. Like, there was never anything to actually challenge any of the things that the state has done. Not only that, like, there wasn't any consent forms for all of the minors who actually gave interviews or testified. They just did what they wanted. And, you know, like, I'm not the type of person to disrupt anything that took place. And I'm accountable for everything. And I look at it like this because had I have been knowledgeable the way I am now.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Most of the things that took place during this trial wouldn't have taken place. You know what I'm saying? Like, my thing is this. The whole thing I always argued the whole time throughout this whole proceeding is this. I didn't shoot that man. I didn't kill that man. Yeah, I was present. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I did have an altercation with him. But I only had that altercation with him because I seen he was chasing those kids and those women, and I just did what was in me to do, and I defended. That's all I did. I never shot him. I never did anything. And I feel that that's not right, and I end up losing my life just for doing what I felt was right. Like, that ain't right. And I've been there 12 years, and it's like the only thing they're trying to do is bury everything that took place. And every single time I bring them to the courts that remotely allows them to be able to see what they've done, the only thing they say is, "I'll take it under advice and push it under the rug and keep it going." That's it. It's like I'm not receiving a fair shake legally. Not at all. Like, I got so many situations that actually prove that they're not just only 16 constitutional violations, 14th Amendment violations, but they, in the state of Ohio, they constitutional rights, the constitutional violations is always being violated on my behalf. And not only that, like, it's a Brady violation because I never received a fair proceeding. There's no way in the world that even a jury member that's on the jury of my trial went to school with my prosecuting attorney. How was that fair? Like, they literally went to high school together. They literally said they were friends. And then as soon as I can see the prosecutor that's getting fired for solicitation in the prosecution. And it's like, how long has that been going on? Why you in the middle of prosecuting me talking about how credible I am?
Bravatia.
Oh,
Hello?
I'm just so outdone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm so outdone. You know, I just, you know, my heart goes out to you, Cornelius, and for all those who have been working alongside with you, trying to realize your freedom that you should have always had. And we're back to accountability again. Every time, every show, we are at accountability. And when accountability, and then you have the ex, saying she doesn't want to go back to prison, but at whose expense? At whose expense? We're not asking for anything more than people do the right thing, but I think it's important to realize the atrocities that happen and how blatant they are, and how people work together in order to avoid the truth. They work together in order to be right. They work together in order to close a case. They work together so they don't have to, so somebody else can be free. And so we have to continue to talk about it. We have to continue to lift it up, get those records. And look, I believe this thing is going to turn around. I think now is the time.
Hello?
Yes, Cornelius. Go ahead.
Yes. I want to say something. This phone is going to hang up, but I'm going to call right back. Okay? Because I'm a big...
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Accountability. I want to I tell everyone who's ever known me, they know I'm accountable. And if I done something wrong, I stand up for it. I've always been like that my whole life. I'm not a person like this right here is my first incarceration. Prior to this, I was in school. I parented.
Thank you for using GTL.
He was last what he was saying before it hung up is he was going to school and he was a parent.
Yeah, and you know what? And he was accountable, but our officials are not. Judges are not. Prosecutors are not. The people, he's accountable. I'm talking about the people who are in service. They have not been accountable, and we need to hold them to this accountability.
I agree.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Alex.
Yeah, the system of accountability isn't right. Accountability versus punishment is very different. And right now, we just have a system of punishment, an unfair system of punishment. And the right people aren't being held accountable, unfortunately. But that's why it's up to us to make noise. And honestly, it's time to start. We need to start highlighting these corporations that, own these prisons, invest in them. It's time to go after them. That's the most accessible, in my opinion.
I say that all the time about those silly messages they making out there at the prison and all the stuff they're making. We need to start not buying it. Go ahead, Attorney Hugo Mack.
Well, I wanted to say this too. See, another problem is the systematic devaluation of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, you see, what I run into routinely as a criminal defense attorney is in constantly having to remind and educate the jury on what it means to believe something beyond any reasonable doubt. It's not just a reasonable doubt, beyond any reasonable doubt. Okay, and see, the problem is that the dumbing down, if you will, of America has been perpetual, especially when it comes to dealing with Black, brown, indigenous, and poor peoples. Because what's happened is, while it made her a billionaire, and I'm just being very candid with you, the Oprah Winfrey show has had horrendous detrimental effects in terms of people's opinion, in terms of some of these juries, because when you have a woman, a prominent woman, a successful woman like Oprah Winfrey, and you have people that routinely come on that show and they give opinions, kind of like a coffee table, group of people sitting around, and having opinions and forming opinions in the audience about somebody's culpability. And I'm not being funny here. I'm I'm being very serious. Oprah is like a cult of personality, or at least she was. So what
Mhm.
I'm saying is, when you have more people that are on a jury that kind of look at the trial as sort of like an on-spot presentation, the Oprah Winfrey show, it dumbs down and desensitizes people as to what it really means before you cast a judgment on somebody else. And
Mhm.
what happens is, I fight this every time I have a jury trial, is in getting the jury to understand that that jury room is not a Jerry Springer sit. That jury room is not the Oprah Winfrey show, okay? That jury room is not the Sunday night news, okay? It's none of those things. And so when you feel, and I have to educate juries that when you feel at ease in seeing Oprah or, like I said, Jerry Springer, those sort of things, and saying, oh, yeah, he did it. Yeah, she did it. Yeah, she's responsible. Don't bring that crap into a jury room. You see what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
see, that's the problem that we have in getting people to understand. When you say you believe something beyond a reasonable doubt, that means you are as comfortable in feeling that way as you would crossing I-94, all right, by yourself with a baby in your arms, okay? Now, some of the people on this group, they may not know what I-94 is. I-94 is a major expressway in the state of Michigan, all right? And people are driving 60, 70, 80, 90 miles per hour.
Right.
So, what I try to get juries to understand is before you say somebody is guilty, you better be doggone sure of their guilt, as you would be confident having your grandbaby in your arms walking across I 94 in the middle of the night. You better be damn sure. Okay. And see, so, and that's the problem. People are not holding the prosecutor to the proper standard of proof. People are holding the prosecutor standard of proof of, well, he probably did it. That's not enough. Well, preponderance of evidence he did it or she, but that's not enough. In the state of Michigan, before you can terminate a person's parental rights to a child, you've got to have clear and convincing evidence. Clear and convincing evidence. That is a rung below proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So I believe if the law was actually applied with proof beyond any reasonable doubt as to each and every element of the offense, I think you would have about half the population in the Michigan Department of Corrections that simply wouldn't be there. So part of the problem is in the dumbing down and the desensitizing of the American jury, and we let it happen to ourselves.
Right. Because we watch these shows, CSI, all those kind of things, and then we look for that. The things we see on TV, we take that to court with us. And you're
That's
right,
right.
Matt. You dumb it down. You're not paying attention because you look at the person and you automatically think guilt instead of thinking innocent until proven guilty. It's just the
Well,
opposite.
yeah. And then you also throw the psychology of human behavior and our thought processes and how we interpret the world around us. And,
Mhm.
a lot of people in the juries see prosecutors, judges, law enforcement as figures of authority, and they're credible and trustworthy, and they're surely, if this guy is innocent, this prosecutor would know enough not to be bringing him to court. And
Right.
then the whole memory, who's the first person that gets to tell their story, and that's the prosecution, right? So that's the story that is first embedded in the jury's mind, and all the
Mm-hmm.
evidence that is presented. And then by the time the defense gets to come up the second time, they're looking, okay, what do they have that's going to prove them wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be enough. when they don't understand that the defense doesn't even have to prove anything. It's on the state. But if they tell a convincing story, they're going to be more believable. And I think that plays a lot into the juries and their decisions, instead of the actual reasonable, beyond any doubt, or even the law when it comes to that. It's more their human thought process.
And
This call is originating from an
and then remember now, the prosecution gets to speak first and last. Remember that. All right. So a lot of people, unless their attention span is exceptional, tend to focus on the last thing they heard. I mean, there's a common castigation of attorneys with some courage, and modesty prevents me from saying the major attorney without courage. I mean, with courage. So, I mean, they will say that some of these judges, their opinions are as good as the last argument they heard. Okay, and if you look at every courtroom in the United States, you notice that the prosecutor's chair, where they sit, is always closer to the jury box. Go in any courtroom in the state of Michigan, J. Love or Reverend Tia, okay, and in Ohio, wherever y'all are at, and see if I'm not telling the truth. See if that prosecutor's table is not closer to the jury box. That's not coincidence, folks. That's designed that way for a reason. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Mr. Patterson has something to say.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
I would like to add to a couple of points that the gentleman made and what Connie made. The biggest misconception to the judicial system is this. Two things. One, people are under the impression that judges and prosecutors can't lie. They don't understand that they're people as well. And two, juror members are not law professors. They're not educated when it comes to the actual laws. So which means when the prosecutor is busy presenting his claim or his case, people are basically going off of how they feel. And it's more to the point of who presents a better story. Because within my case, the prosecutor clearly stated that DNA does not work in real life like it does on TV. I was all because I was like, well, if it doesn't work the way it does on TV, then how does it work? And that right there was the first sign that I needed to know that they were not going to let me leave. They were willing to do whatever it took to secure a conviction. They wasn't looking to find the person who did it. They were looking to find a person who did it, which means they were willing to lie in order to forward their careers. See, people don't seem to understand that when you're dealing with prosecutors, you're dealing with attorneys, you're dealing with lawyers, you're dealing with judges, they all work for the same entity, the state, which means most attorneys don't do their job if they're in the pocket of the prosecutor.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Which means they are busy living on a buddy system. You give me this, and later on I'll give you something that concerns you. Which means no one is really going to do it just to the actual client, because the actual law is stated like this: to the courts first, to the Constitution second, and then to the client. What people also don't understand is this. Oh my goodness. When it comes to the way the judicial system is actually ran, people don't know that they have a better chance having a bench trial than having a jury trial, because at least during a bench trial, the judge has to go off of what the law says. He cannot go off of how he feels. Had I have known this, I would have said, give me a bench trial to go exactly what the elements of the law says you have to follow, instead of going off of who can paint a better picture.
Well, I mean, as doing this business for over 40 years, I mean, I understand Mr. Patterson's feeling, but it's been my experience that in a situation, particularly one that's racially charged, boy, I mean, I've had a lot more success with a jury trial than I have with a bench trial. So but every case is different. I mean, at least with a jury, if you can
Yes.
get one person, if you get one person to say this is a bunch of bull, I'm not going to sit by and let this happen, you got a mistrial. But a judge is a finder of fact and determiner of law. So, I've run into a whole lot of good old boy judges. They've been elected 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5, 6 times, and they're very, very comfortable, and they know who their constituents are. People will lock them up, throw away the key. So, I mean, I understand Mr. Patton is saying, but it's a roll of the dice either way.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I understand the flip side of both sides. But the biggest thing, like you said, you get one person, it's okay. But when you're dealing with a case that's gender unfriendly and racially charged, I understand that I was in a no-win situation, no matter which way I'd have went about this. But at least had I'd have sat in front of the judge, they'd have had to present the case a little bit better than what they did. So all they had to do was make people feel uncomfortable. Once they made the jury feel uncomfortable, you got an all-white jury, an all-white county, the white defeated. The only person black that participated in the trial or the lynching of Cornelius Patterson Jr. was myself. I'm the only person of color in this whole proceeding. Before that, it looked like the first 44 presidents. White.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what took place. I'm not here to make fun of what took place, and I'm not trying to make light of what's taking place. The only thing I'm saying is this: you cannot break the law in order to uphold the law. And that's what's taking place presently.
Yeah.
So Lisa, where you at on this?
Well, Miss Connie Mayhew is still doing her investigation. My side of it, what I'm doing is
this call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
We're just going to keep at this and keep pushing and bringing his story and making people hold them to accountability. Right. Whether it's the prosecutor, the judge, the county, and the ex-girlfriend that actually committed this crime. My job is to make everybody just feel a little uncomfortable. And why would they feel uncomfortable? Because they've not done what was right. This man is sitting in prison for a crime he did not commit. Miss Connie Mayhew will continue to work on this case. I'm going to do everything I can. And the great part about Connie at HSH Investigations, there's no time frame. We're going to fight until he's out, till he is a free person. And however long that takes and whatever that takes. I'm going to do that because I believe in this, and what's being done to him is wrong. Mm-hmm. And I often think about, and I tell people all the time that this could be you, Mr. Patterson, this could happen to my grandchild, to my brother, my uncle. I don't have any sons, but I got grandsons. It could be them fighting for their life. It's that easy. Right. Something has to give. And I'm not sure exactly. I want to say that we have to vote, and we have to vote on all the way down from the trash man on up. We have to get involved, and we have to make a difference, because see, that judge and that prosecutor that took Mr. Patterson's life was elected. Wow. So we have to make a change.
Yes, exactly. I say this all the time, Lisa. I agree with you that wrongful conviction can happen to anybody at any time. Nobody is exempt. And you're right, we do have to vote. We judges we don't really pay attention to them. And I tell people all this because I found out myself by going to a class at UD Mercy Law School that police unions and judges and police officers and all of those that's who vote for judges. So we had to be more active and take accountability for the people that we putting in these seats. You never know where it could be your family member or where it can be someone that you love go before these people that's already biased before you even get there. They bring their biases and their racism to work, and it doesn't bother them. Meanwhile, we have so many Cornelius Pattersons. My son Gerard was Cornelius. So we have to take accountability ourselves as well. We have to pay attention to who's running. We have to do our homework. We can't just continue to sit idly by and not vote for judges, not understand what's going on. Because when you go in front of these courts, they don't care if you don't know. They're going to do exactly what the machine is supposed to do. It's going to run with you or without you.
Yep. And thank you so much, all of you.
What are the problems? Excuse me. I mean to interrupt, but I don't mean any harm.
I know. You go ahead.
The biggest problem that I face within my plight is that I had an attorney tell me that my case is red flag. I can't get an attorney to touch my case, let alone adequately represent me, simply because my case can prove that the officials within Hancock County are guilty of the criminal RICO, and I can prove it.
And we are currently, I've called multiple attorneys and lieu of Mr. Patterson, trying to get them to look at his case, and what he's saying is true. They do not want any parts of it. So, but we won't stop that, and and I will continue. And I've been in this hot seat before where I got a million no's, and we just don't give up. We don't give up. And I think that's the bottom line. There's no guarantee but one, and that guarantee is I'll be that thorn in anyone's side until it's done, until he is free.
Right. Have you guys, Miss Connie and Lisa, have you guys thought about looking at law schools?
We have, yeah, we have. They're not interested as well. And even though 12 years is a long time for if anyone that's ever been in prison. One day is a long time.
Exactly.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
The Ohio State school that I spoke with wasn't interested. In Cincinnati, they said basically he hasn't done enough time. It's not interesting enough. It's not, and then as you sit back and see that these men that are being exonerated that come out free, they've done 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Their life is gone. Why does it take that long? Why does a person have to sit in prison that long if they are innocent? And I can't.
And
Yeah,
and
go
just
ahead.
like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But like law schools, typically what I find when I reach out to them, or even innocence projects, conviction integrity units, when you have strong evidence to show innocence, they get so many people that are requesting help that they have to be very, very picky on what cases they take. And that's why a lot of the innocence projects won't even look at the case unless there is DNA evidence, new DNA evidence that can be used or tested to prove that, or, they're so inundated because they offer their services for free. And a lot of people that are wrongfully convicted, if they had $50,000 to $100,000 to pay an attorney to work on their case, they wouldn't be in prison, So a lot of these people have to rely on, free resources, doing it themselves like Cornelius is, and or because a lot of time when you get to the point of where Cornelius is, the courts they won't appoint an attorney at that point. So it's just really difficult to find people unless it's clear cut to take on something like this.
Right. And just to piggyback off that, when you get someone that like Mr. Patterson, and he's educated himself and he works really hard on his case every day, so now he can fight his case. He's got what it takes. And now he's in a prison that only sends out mail a certain time of the week, or maybe they don't send it out. So now it gets there late.
That's what they're doing.
And
They're not sending the mail out. I recently had a case in which I'm currently filing in 1983 against this prison because they denied me access to the courts, and I missed my original deadline in order to file my direct appeal to the Ohio Supreme Court. And I had to actually file for a delayed appeal, and the Ohio Supreme Court agreed with me. And they said, the arguments in which you've given us, we agree with, you're right. So they offered me a delayed appeal, and in the process, I'm in the middle of filing in 1983 against the prison, because they denied me the right to actually be able to go to the law library to research and garner the information in which I needed in order to perfect the timely appeal. So now I'm in the process of waiting for the magistrate from the Western District of Ohio in order to get back to me to let me know what this 1983 stands.
right.
And I'm doing this all myself. Like, I'm filing a federal habeas corpus on my own. I'm filing a 1983 civil lawsuit on my own. I educated myself. I went and looked for help. I went and found the people that I need to find in order to help me do the things in which I need to do. Because I am so determined on getting myself out. No matter what I gotta do, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm somebody that's not gonna go away. You're not gonna be able to silence me. You're not gonna be able to get me to sit still. You can put me in a hole and leave me in there with no light. I'll write on the floor, break the brick up and nail the brick if I have to. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to save my life. Whether someone wants to help or if they don't want to help. I'm doing everything I have to possibly in order to save my own life.
Right.
And we are so proud of you, Mr.
Yeah,
Patterson.
yeah.
I am beyond proud of him. Oh my, you know, and you know, and that's the thing, you know, for every step he takes, they pull him back 2 steps. So he's truly a fighter. He is truly a fighter. So, but he will win. He will win because God doesn't like ugly. He's gonna win. He's coming out.
One thing about this whole thing that's been taking place within my life, that's been consuming the past 12 years of my life, I didn't allow this to make me a better person. I allowed this to make me a better person. I came to prison. I learned business. I came to prison. I learned multiple languages. I came to prison. I learned law. I came to prison. I learned how to play a musical instrument. Instead of allowing myself to be declined, I improved myself. I empowered myself. I educated myself. I allowed.
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
To help me become a better version of myself. I've also done TED Talks since I've been here. But before I even came to prison, like I said previously, I was a parent. I worked a full-time job. I went to college full-time. I was an advocate for the Lupus Foundation of Northwest Ohio. I did Lupus Walks in Toledo, Ohio with the Mayor Party Fighter when he was in office in 07. I was doing something productive with my life. So just because I'm here, I did not allow here to stop me from being productive. It's all you on how you do with your life. No matter what the situation is, you just have to make the best of it if you're able to be in a position you would like to be. That's all I do every day of my life. Make the best of it.
Reverend Tia, go ahead.
Okay. If you didn't feel that fire right now, I feel it. And you know what? I want to say thank you because that encourages me who's not even going through it physically, but because of you, we got to keep it going. Because of you and because of your persistence and because of your resilience, we have to be resilient out here. We have to continue to display what has been corruptible, what is ugly, what is insane. We have to continue to allow people to see the corrupt mechanisms that are not always manifested before everybody's eyes. All of those hidden things. And you know what? I'm going to tell you right now, it is time for the hidden things to be revealed. And it is time for us to speak those things that be not as though they were. And so, what I'm saying right now is that all of these hidden things are getting ready to be revealed, and all of your crooked, ugly ways that have been woven into this justice system are going to be highlighted, and people will have to be held accountable. Ohio will be held accountable. And all of those people who got in the way of obstructing justice, they will be held accountable. Now, do I know the how? No. Do I know all of the ways that this is going to happen? Oh, no. But you know what? I got so much faith right now, I don't even have to know the how. What I know is that it will come to pass. And there are going to be many people that understand, that will begin to walk in this way to bring justice to pass. Because we should be right now at a point where we have had enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's right.
Amen.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. You're all amazing. You know, I want to throw that in. He actually has 3 minutes left on the phone.
Okay, let Cornelius talk. Go ahead, Cornelius.
I'm normally not a man who is at a loss for words, but I want to tell everyone involved today, thank you. Like I said previously, I appreciate you all taking time away from your families on Black Friday to spend time with me. I am appreciative at the fact that you've given me your platform in order to allow my cause to be heard. I'm just thankful that the things I've been asking for a little over a decade is now starting to come to pass. Like, when I first started doing this, I didn't know how this was going to go. Only I wasn't going to stop it to happen. It was people who thought that my life was over. It was people who thought that I wasn't going to make it out of this. It was people who thought I was crazy for even thinking about making out of this. But my thing is that I always believed that I was. And I told everybody around me, it don't matter what you think, I believe it. As long as I believe it, eventually I'll allow it. And if you start seeing it, I'll start making you believe it. And when you start believing it, I'll start allowing you to never doubt me again, especially if I'm telling you I'm determined on doing something. I never not touched nothing I said I was going to do. I never not do this. And today, tomorrow, a week, a month, a year from now,
You have 1 minute remaining.
like I said, I'm going to fight. I ain't got breath left. As long as I got it, I ain't problem. Because I'm fighting. I'm not going to stop, and I'm going to keep pushing. And I thank you for all you hearing me, just for the moment that you have.
Thank you, Cornelius. We are praying for you. We're standing with you. Standing with Lisa and Connie, and to get your story out here. And hopefully this story, will be picked up by the right person, or one of these projects, Innocent Project, or one of these schools, or someone would pick it up and really going deep into it and, figure it out for you. The
I'm pretty much got it done.
You being so positive and so, understanding of your energy is the reason why you gotten this far, along.
Thank you for using GTL.
In your case, so.
Yeah, it hung up, but he's just, yeah. Thank you so much. And I know that we've been on this your show a little longer than you normally go. So I appreciate the extra time as well. I mean, I have to say it, Michigan, the best advocates ever. So thank you. I mean, I've always had high respects for everyone in Michigan, because you are fighters. You truly are. And if I can do half of what all of you do in Michigan for Cornelius Patterson, we'll get him home. Connie too. Now I can't do it without her, of course.
Yes.
Can't do it.
Yeah, I'm kind of, Lisa, she does her thing. I'm more, behind the scenes, which is what I prefer. But we make a good team, and we do this for all of our clients, and hopefully, because we believe in them and want to fight for them too. So we thank you very much for everything.
Oh, you're welcome. And what gives me hope is that we see more and more people being exonerated every day.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's slowed down here a little bit, I still, have hope that, more innocent people will be freed. Attorney Hugo Matt, would you like to say anything?
Well, next time you talk to Cornelius, I have a story of my own that might. I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Attorney Hugo Matt.
I'm sorry. I have a story of my own that might encourage him. I understand the plight of the wrongfully convicted. Having been wrongfully convicted myself and disbarred, spent 12 years in the penitentiary for a crime that I've never committed. Served the time, consistently maintained my innocence. The parole board saw the truth, let me out on my earliest release date, and were able to do something that had never been done in the state of Michigan before. A person going to the penitentiary and regaining their law license, okay? When everybody said that's impossible, that will never, ever happen, Everybody said that except two people, myself and my late mother. Having a praying spiritual mother, if you're a young black man or maybe a young man, period, is the greatest thing in the world that can happen to you, okay? And for you. So the Michigan Supreme Court did something in my case it had never done in the history of the state. After 2 years of investigation, they realized my innocence and restored my law license to me. So you tell Cornelius, never, ever, ever stop the fight. Never stop the fight.
I hear you.
Thank you. He just called back. He here. And go ahead, Cornelius. Go ahead. Let him know. I
hear you. And for anyone that's looking to get in touch with me, you can find me at jpay.com. My inmate number is A6490. I'm within the state of Ohio. I'm in Marion Correctional Institute. You may continue.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Cornelius. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Attorney Hugo Matt. Cornelius does have a petition that you can sign. It's on change.org. Just go to www.change.org/ and put in his name, Cornelius Patterson Jr., and it'll take you right to his story. So you can sign this petition and share with others. It's so much evidence, of his innocence, and we need to really, push, and hopefully
This call is originating.
it won't be like Lisa said, 20 or 40 years from now. Maybe it could be, sooner than soon. So thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back next Friday on Turning a Moment into a Movement.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be blessed. God bless y'all.
Bye.
Thanks.